Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. This is Sahavas for everyone. Tonight, we are going to have special guest Avatar Meher Baba, and I will show you what he's talking about. He is talking about humility. This is our 12 ways of realizing me message from Meher Baba, and he says, way three is humility. If you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape, then you will know me. And you want to see his humility? I'll show you his humility. When I try to present him big, he goes away. See, that's his humility. um, so, a couple things about this, and then we'll open it up for whoever comes to ask questions or have responses. Is that there's quite a bit in the literature from Baba about humility. He talks about it in discourses, he talks about it throughout his life. So if you look at Lord Meher, it comes up. I'm going to share two things that I think are the most relevant and see where it goes from there. So let me share again and we'll see what that is. I became fascinated a long time ago with words. Hopefully, you can see this Latin. So, the word humility has its roots in the Latin word humus, which is the word for the ground, as in the earth beneath our feet. So, here, the literal word humility is connected to the earth and the ground. And Baba says, if you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape. So he's almost playing off the etymology of the word humility itself. If you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape, then you will know me. So, what does this mean to me? It means to me that there's no resistance to being molded into any shape. Now, who's doing the molding into any shape? That's, I think, the real question. I think it's Baba. So if you have the humility of the earth, the ground beneath your feet, if you have the humility of the ground beneath your feet, which can be molded by Baba into any shape, I don't think he literally means he's going to mold you into a shape. I think this means he's going to do what he wants with you without you resisting. If you have the humility of the earth, which is the ground beneath your feet, which can be worked with by Baba in your life to take you into anything he wants to take you into without your resistance, then you will know me. That's what I think this is getting on about here. That's my personal belief. All right, moving on, unless anybody has anything to say about that. There's one quote that I've read and reread over the years from Baba about humility. It's quite long, but I love it. So I'm going to share it. It says, modesty is weakness, but humility is strength. A world of difference, therefore, exists between the two. The moment you say, I say in all humility, the very expression is the expression of the ego in you. Even if in your mind you feel that you are humble, this feeling is egoistic. The difficulty does not end even if, with true honesty, you try to express true humility. An obstacle, such as the thought as to what others may think of your expression of humility, is bound to come. In modesty, you are constantly pestered with thoughts about your correct behavior to such an extent that an inferiority complex is self-created in you. And that is not strength, but weakness. No sooner humility is given an expression, it is no longer humility. And here he's playing with the word humility again. It is humbug to give deliberate expression to humility. The life of humility is to be lived spontaneously, and it should not give rise to any thoughts either about humility or about modesty. Let me read that again. The life of humility is to be lived spontaneously, and it should not give rise to any thoughts either about humility or about modesty. For example, suppose you undertake to clean a latrine. This means a bathroom or a toilet or a loo, as they say in England. But when you actually begin to do so, you cannot help smelling the stink. Whereas a sweeper who cleans them all his life will remain unaffected by the stench. Similarly, the person who parades humility is like the one who smells the stink when cleaning a latrine. Whereas the person who lives the life of humility is like the sweeper, who is not only immune to the stink, but who also remains absolutely unmindful about what others think about him and his job, because he actually lives the life of a sweeper. To have to try to be humble is also humbug. You must be so natural that your very life becomes humility personified, which is then all strength, free from any weakness. Only God and the perfect masters can live such a life. They are the only ones who are really humble. So, whatever you may be, express it unmindful of public opinion or the reaction of others. Be natural. If you are dishonest, do not try to hide yourself behind the curtain of honesty. That, however, does not mean that you should be dishonest. What I want to say is that you must be most natural rather than the least hypocritical. This was from Lord Maher, as we can see, page 3479 to 3480. Quite a lengthy quote. Of course, you can go there directly if you have the ability to get online and see this here. This is the text here, and it goes on to the next page here. Okay. So that is what I wanted to share. Those are my two stories. I think that we might have somebody else coming to visit us, and we do. Hi. There's Diane and Terry. We just were able to share a little bit about humility. Do you have anything to share in way of a story or a quote about humility? I think you might
We're
be
a little late to the party, if you will. So
I know that's okay. There's no
and
on Baba
I'm a
Zoom.
bit
There's no
under the
early or
weather.
late.
I had hoped to just listen today.
There's no early or late on Baba Zoom. You're welcome to come and go anytime you want. We're just happy to have you.
Okay. Humility.
Do you want me to kick you
Have
off?
a partner for 36 years, there is no humility anymore. You come clean with everything, you just, and Baba, I mean, it's the one thing he says, just speak truthfully and honestly. You run into people who can't necessarily have an ego around it. They're good stuff, but to me, it's just gifts Baba wants me to use. We've used them a lot this week.
Yeah, what's been going on? Do you want to share a
Well, a
little bit?
lady fell down after our dental appointment and we had to pick her up with her. I don't know if that was her caretaker or what. And then her sister came out. She was wicked obese and wicked heavy. She was like muscly too. And somehow we managed to help. That's who we are in the world. I was just saying it in therapy to my therapist, all the times that we've helped people.
So it's interesting because we've had a hell of a week, and that's what you thought
But
of.
we don't have ego around it. We're doing it. In those days, we did it just to be helpful. Now we do it for Bubba.
Yeah.
We do it with no questions
No
asked.
questions asked.
We just heard the noise, turned around.
And
We were in a hurry too. We had a dinner engagement
Yeah.
and we stopped.
yeah.
That sounds like selfless service.
But that's
Right,
what it is.
but
Yeah.
it's not humility. But
No, but we don't. the humility behind it is that we don't go around telling people. I mean, we
No, I
told
hear you.
people, you know, and have, you
And the
know,
recording.
yeah, all right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
But
okay.
it's just that we do it, we don't do it for us, we do it
No,
for
no.
them. It
Yeah,
is
I can
service,
give
but
that
it
as
also,
that's selfless service. Here's the quote from Baba on humility. If you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape, then you will know me. Isn't that a fascinating quote?
Mhm.
And I think the part that you missed was I read something that I thought was interesting about that. Should I share that again for you since you missed that? It says, this is something I wrote. It says, the Latin word humus, Humus, is the word for ground, as in the earth beneath our feet. And Baba said, if you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape, then you will know me. So I was playing with the fact that Baba's own quote about humility references the earth, and the word humility references the earth. And it's almost like earth in a type of like clay earth, taking that. I think of like mud bricks, like early mud houses, like how you can just turn it into whatever you want and it's useful. And I gave a little thing about that before you came, which was that, you know obviously I don't think Baba means literally becoming like the earth, but becoming like the earth, and that it's that we're not providing any resistance to what Bob is trying to do with us in our life. That's where I'm going with that. That he's going to be the one molding us into some shape based on what he's doing with us in our lives. Does that make sense how I'm talking about that?
Since it's just us girls here,
do you have more people and we just don't see them?
No.
Oh, okay, just wanted
So-
to check.
I think it's an incredibly humble act on your part to come to your commitment. And whether there were people here or not, you still went on. Now, I know it has the opportunity to be heard via recording, but your leap of faith and your commitment, I need more here.
Okay.
I'm quite humbled by it.
Thank you. Well, I started at 7 with Baba, and I knew whoever comes is who's supposed to be here and come. And like you said, even if nobody comes to the Baba Zoom, it's still being recorded and shared with the world, and it's all going to be what Baba wants it to be. It's not. Baba said it's never about the numbers, right? It's easy for people to gather. It's about touching the hearts and love moving from heart to heart, right? And that's really him driving the bus.
The other thing that, thank you for that, by the way. The other thing that strikes me about humility for me
Yeah.
is I have been struggling with people kind of frustrating me and disappointing me and not coming up to my standards,
Right.
my needs. And when I step back and I realize, one of the things, your last session with Anne was groundbreaking for me.
Oh, good.
Her sharing that "let them" phrase was really important because I've had to do that a lot this week and tell myself, let them. Nobody's doing anything to me.
Right. Right.
Let them do what they need to do. And if I feel disappointed or I don't feel special or I don't feel whatever, that's on me.
Yeah, that's right. And in Al-Anon, we have a phrase, and it's about expectations are premeditated disappointments. And I thought, ooh, that's a
That
good one.
again, are premeditated disappointments.
Expectations are premeditated disappointments. And
That's
I thought that's
great.
really good because you're basically setting yourself up for disappointment, and there's no agreement, right? So who agreed to these expectations?
My family used to own a company called Great Expectations.
Right, right. So if there's no agreement, what is the expectation based on, or what's the foundation for it? It's bound to be a disappointment. Even if there is an agreement, people don't live up to agreements. But if there's no agreement, it's almost like doomed from the start. Right? Yeah.
Oh, very, very true.
Yeah. And then I'm reminded that Upasni Maharaj used to love to say, be as it may, in that sense of like you're saying, kind of like let them, like people are just going to do what they're going to do. They're not going to listen. Baba knew that. Did I tell you once? I was watching when I first came to Baba. I was watching the film at probably at the Meher Spiritual Center, most likely, and I'm sitting in the chair watching the film, and there's Baba Guru Prasad, right? And there's all the film, the guy who's taking the film or whoever's taking the film shows all the traffic rushing by Guru Prasad, right? But Baba's sitting there in Guru Prasad. And I'm thinking to myself, where are these people going? The avatars come. He's right there in Pune at Guru Prasad, and they're just whizzing by. Because they have their lives, they have their desires, they don't know about Baba, or they do, but they have to go pick up their kid from school, whatever is going on. And my expectation in that moment was they should all stop and go see Baba, right? But that's not how it is. That's just not how it is.
Wow.
Right? And I was thinking of the people who I've met who are humble, really, truly humble. The way Baba talks about spontaneous humility. Of course, I've met the Mandali. I met Upasni Maharaj's charge woman, Godavari Mai. I met Mara. I mean, the ones who were truly humble, they were just living that life the way Baba said. And there's a list, right? There's a whole list of them: Erich and Mani and Mani's way of dealing and caring for Mara, and Mara, of course, and all these great ones. But Godavari Mai was a remarkable, very quiet, powerful presence. Did you all meet her? Incredible. And she just stood next to Upasni's grave while we all bowed down. So I think we have Vanessa joining. Hi, Vanessa. Your perfect timed entry for telling a story, if you have any story or experience of humility.
Cotton socks right
Do you have anything to share, Vanessa?
The only thing that comes to mind from personal experience is just having been in India when the Mandalay were around, and of course I used to love Erich, and we had longer Merzad days, so we could hang out on the porch and even get some of the Mandalay when they weren't having to be so on, like we'd have tea or we'd have a little lunch and we could chat. And Erich was sitting at the table with all of us one time. We were having tea, and his kind of right hand man at the time was Gary Kleiner. And Gary was kind of like this cool cat who as you knew, like really had a lot of energy, and he loved to play volleyball and this and that, but he used to call Erich Babe and other kind of slang nickname terms. And one time, I guess he got up from the tea to go somewhere, and somebody asked Erich, like, is that, it just doesn't, he seems disrespectful to, be called babe, and to have kind of these slang terms be, which are usually, thrown around in kind of friendship circles, but even then, it's, you'd have to be pretty, I guess in a jokingly manner, because it wouldn't be something you would do all the time. But he actually looked right at the person and responded with, no, it is disrespectful, but I have never mentioned it to him. So he didn't really explain beyond that. I mean, they kept saying, well, why do you allow him to do it? What's going on or whatever? And then, my interpretation of the whole situation was that it was just Erich's humility, his, ability to, I guess, adapt and be flexible with someone's ignorance in that way.
Yeah, that's a great example. And can I respond to that, Vanessa? I think that's a fantastic example. And also, when they asked Baba about the divine mistakes or weaknesses of the avatars, Baba said every avatar, Devana Brown likes to call it a weakness, says every avatar has a weakness. And Baba explained the weaknesses of every avatar. And then he said, I actually, as the avatar Mayor Baba, have two, not just one. And he said, one, I'm not going to tell for 700 years, but the other one I'll tell you now. And it's that I allow my Mandali to say anything to me and behave any different way, even if it's inappropriate. And I thought that might be linked to Erich's way of dealing with Gary Kleiner, because it's almost the same kind of thing. Some of the Mandali would behave in ways and say things to Baba that were not appropriate, and Baba put up with that. And Erich once told me a story. Can I tell that story?
Yeah.
And it shows Baba's humility. Erich once told me this story. He said, I'm just going to tell it as best as I can remember it, as if I'm Erich. He said, I was in charge of Baba's form, caring for him. And he said, I used to carry around a kit with everything Baba would need, like nail clippers and shampoo and like everything you could think of when they would travel together and all that. So he said, one time I was giving Baba a bath and I had the shampoo. And he said, in those days, we didn't have plastic shampoo bottles like we have today. It was a glass. You might remember these glass bottles, small glass bottles with a stopper on it. And the shampoo was held in there. And he put the shampoo bottle in the shower bath area where he had the buckets of water and he had Baba on a stool and all this. And he said, now, Baba, don't touch anything. I'm just going to go get some more water. And he said he went to get the water and he heard, and he ran back. And of course, Baba had reached for the shampoo and it slipped and fell onto the ground and shattered. The bottle shattered. And Erich said, Baba, I just said to you, don't touch anything. I'm going to get more. Now look at this mess. And he starts yelling at Baba. And he said, Baba looked like this. Like a little child almost who had been scolded by mom, and that Erich was really upset with Baba. Erich wasn't pretending to be upset. He was really upset. And of course he cleans it all up and he has to find other shampoo and they get through the bath and all that. But then when he's telling me the story, we're in Mandali Hall or it had to be either Mandali Hall or at the porch out front of Mandali Hall, somewhere at Merzad. Erich had this look of real remorse. And he said, now I can't believe I treated Baba that way. That was Baba I was talking to like that. So he held onto that feeling of, now he had shame and remorse for how he was treating Baba, and he was trying to work through that. But Baba's humility was such that he seemed to be almost childlike when Erich was caring for him. What do you guys think of that story?
Well, even God can make a mistake.
I thought you were going to say make a mess.
Yeah, the mess.
I gotta let my dog in. Hold on.
Okay.
Well, it makes sense now. I mean, I remember hearing from Devana like how much Erich tried to model his actions after Baba. And to hear that, Baba allowed, some of his close ones to call him, by different names. And then now seeing Erich do that, that makes sense that, Erich would be doing that for love.
Does this bring up any questions for anyone? And Vanessa, you missed the quote, but I'll say it one more time since you just joined. It's if you have the humility of the earth, which can be molded into any shape, then you will know me. That's what Baba said for way number 3 of 12 ways of realizing me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Humility is the thing I think when I think of the world, if we all had humility, I mean, it would just be this incredibly beautiful place. I mean, for me, the opposite of humility is like judgment. And I feel like, we've kind of lived through ages and ages of judgments, sort of like, it would be such a beautiful place to experience, that humility. But I really can't think of, like, just off the top of my head, like any particular person or, you know, that I could say, oh, this is the example of humility. I think this culture, we're raised in a culture of like trying to, you know, really judging, and discernment would be great, but I think there's a lot of judgment going on, and it's hard I think the oneness and the unity of humanity is felt in that humility, you know, so I feel like that's like the separation there, where judgment creates separation and humility creates that closeness and that humanness. And maybe that's what Baba and Erich were after. They were after more of the unity and the oneness, in the act
Yeah.
of just taking a nickname.
Yeah. Well, I certainly can say I experienced Don Stevens as being extremely humble.
Yeah.
He had a lot of money from his oil work. He had a lot of influence in the Meher Baba community, first with Sufism Reoriented, and then after he was evicted from Sufism in Europe. And I'm not going to say he was, perfect or anything like that. I don't think he was God realized, but he expressed tremendous humility in the way of when he would have gatherings. I witnessed this. Rather than being the heavy and the leader and like pontificating, he would very frequently defer to those in the room, and he would call on people. So if you were in a gathering with Don and he was being asked to explain about Baba, he would frequently read something from Baba or say something about a story about Baba, and then he would say something like, Vanessa, how do you feel about that? And he would redirect it so that everybody had the opportunity to share and be a source of wisdom and truth in the room. And it was really humbling to me to see that, but also to know that he could easily have just, carried the torch the whole time. But he really was interested in lighting other people's flames and seeing them shine. That was my experience of Don.
I see you doing that.
I learned from Don. I learned from him. It's an important thing, and I know that Baba's within in each person. I know that, and not just person, in everything that's alive. So the more that we can encourage others to find that, I think. Did I mention last time? Maybe I didn't because we were with Anne. But I was at the Meher Spiritual Center with my friend Robert, introducing Robert to Baba and to the Baba Center. He had never been to Myrtle Beach, to the Meher Spiritual Center. Well, he had been to Myrtle Beach. He'd never been to the Meher Spiritual Center. And so he loved the Meher Spiritual Center. He absolutely loved it. And by Baba's grace, Wendy Haynes gave us the tour. And so Vanessa, she held on to my right arm the entire time. So
Wow.
I was inches away from her the entire time. So I got to hear every word, every breath, really. And at one point, she stopped the tour and she looked at me just kind of like out of the blue, spontaneously. And she looked at me and she said, that's how she talks, kind of intensely. Sometimes she says, Baba said to us, and she took her shirt and she went like this, I'm not this body. Look within. And I thought, wow, what a powerful statement. I'm not this body. Look within. I just wrote to her about it in email just to make sure I got the words properly. But that was the gist of it. And it was in the context of her giving the tour, and here's the pillow where Baba's blood is on the pillow from the accident, and all. It was all this like bodily stuff, and here's his coat. And then so she did that, she did Baba's gesture. She said Baba did this with his own garment. Like, I'm not this body. And so I think that that even Baba being the avatar and saying, look within, is humility, right? Because he's basically saying, find me within. Don't get hung up about this form.
Yeah, right.
You like that?
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like our generation, we didn't get Baba's form, so we're having to do that already. So go within.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody might have a question.
You're on mute. Dan and Terry, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
There's a lot going on in our house, and so we're going in and out of stuff.
Oh,
And I just wanted to tell you that because we're not being rude. We're just trying to listen,
okay.
but greatly as we would like to.
Okay, no problem. So I have another story that I was just reminded of. Can I tell that one? Don Stevens told me this because I asked him, what was it like, being with Baba at the Mayor Spiritual Center? Don was with Baba at the Mayor Spiritual Center in 1956 and in 1958. And so he gave me one example of what it was like, but there's many, many examples. He said, Beryl Williams, there were three sisters who were Black, African-American, who came to see Baba, Beryl, Benita, and Bernice. I was friends with Bernice, but I didn't know the other two. But he said Beryl was so in love with Baba that when Baba would walk from one part of the center to the other, she would walk so close behind Baba so that she could put every foot of her footstep into where Baba just put his foot and follow Baba around the center in his footsteps. And I thought that, Vanessa, you made me think of that because of your saying we didn't have Baba in the body. But look how close we were, right? I was born months before Baba passed away. Vanessa was born just under 2 years after Baba passed away. How close we were. So we don't know what our past, I don't know. Vanessa doesn't know what our past lives were. We have ideas or glimpses maybe, but we don't really know. So maybe we were with him in our last lifetime. Maybe for some reason he wanted it this way. I don't know. I need to surrender and be, molded into the fact that I don't have him in his human form. So what do I need to do? I need to do what Wendy told me. I'm not this body. Look within. I need to find him within me. And that's what I'm working on. You're on mute, love.
I also want to say it's interesting, as you say, it's not this body. Both Diane and I have some body issues right now, and we're trying to breathe through them and know that Bob is giving us a little struggle. However, we will get to the other side, and
Yeah.
we're not this body. So not to worry and to know Bob has got our hand, and it's
Yeah.
he's in us all. So he's us.
Yes. You might know that he has given some affirmations. Have you seen those affirmations?
I don't know.
Those might be helpful. Maybe I can email you the affirmations.
Thank you.
What's the email address?
You can do DYAN, Diane, Ullman, ULLMAN, @gmail.com.
Okay. I'll send you a test right now so that after this session, if it comes through, I'll send you the affirmations. The beauty of the affirmations, they were all given in a context. So we have the context, and I'll share that as well. But they're each designed by Baba. You can tell, but just by reading it, to shift the frame, to reframe, and to refocus one's awareness on the truth, right? So while the experience is that we have a body, that's definitely the experience. The truth is so much deeper, right? Baba says in God Speaks and other places, right? It's the soul attaching to and associating with the form. The form is not the key, the soul is the key. So, where's the focus? Where is the attention and the awareness? I think that's what these affirmations are all about. And I know they've helped me and Vanessa, and I've started sharing them with other people. Go ahead, love.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the one that I think we both of us ended up saying the most in one period of the beginning, I think, of our relationship was all is well and beautiful. And we haven't decided whether it's we or I, right?
No,
All
I
is
know
well.
what Baba said, but we transferred it into we because we were doing it together. So
Okay, so all do you wanna say it?
no, you do it from the beginning.
Okay, all is well and beautiful, and we will be happy.
We will be happy.
Yeah. So we made it into a song, and then we sing it at our wedding, and then we also, like, Laurent would sing it to me to sleep. Because sometimes I felt like at that period of my life, the pain was so immense that it took an incredible amount of focus just on the affirmation, to try to even kind of keep afloat above the suffering. So it definitely helped. And then I found it's interesting. I felt kind of like kind of a grief after the suffering was gone. Then I wasn't as connected to saying the affirmation, but um whenever I think of it now, it has like special kind of feeling to it because it reminds me of that time when it kind of reminds me of like holding on to his Taman, right? When we're going through these things and we feel like maybe, I think it's a human tendency to think, oh, Baba's putting me through this, or something, but
Yeah.
it could be just simply, our past actions, our past karma, and now we're working things out, and it's his grace. And how else would we come to him but through these like periods of intense, there's
Yeah.
physical suffering, there's emotional suffering, and I got to the point where after this phase of suffering where we were doing these affirmations that now I had this terrible back injury, and so I was bedridden and different things, and so I was just like, I kind of felt like, wow, okay, this is what it's like to be an athlete for God. It's not like what the powers that you get. It's like the level of ability you have to like, get through the suffering with, that the equipoise and the humility and the surrender, right? So that's like, I think where, the affirmations really help because in a way we become the helpless and hopeless in his love.
That was very well said, love. Very well said. Yeah. Well, we don't need to go a full hour. We've gone 40 minutes. We can end whenever we wish. Does anybody have last burning thoughts or feelings or desires to share?
I just want to commend you again for
Thank
doing this and
Leaving these words for humanity. It's really wonderful.
Hmm.
Although I guess I do have a morbid curiosity, or a
Oh.
love curiosity, to hear the song.
How could I resist?
Thank you.
All is well and beautiful, and we will be happy. All is well and beautiful, and we will be happy. All is well, all is well, all is well, all is well.
That was so lovely.
It's almost like a dance. I like that.
Yeah, very mesmerizing.
Well, I'm not a singer, but that's what I would sing to Vanessa.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
She's so doing it tonight.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Avatar, Meher Baba,
Baba
Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Avatar,
Mayor
Meher
Baba
Baba,
Ki Jai. Avatar Mayor Baba Ki Jai.